and welcome to Firstpost Live, where we bring you the day's top 4 stories from across the world. I am Gursheen Garland, live from the Firstpost studios. Let's begin with the headlines. Canada's domestic spy chief says his agency is foiling potentially lethal threats linked to Iran, revealing in a rare public speech that Tehran is targeting people on Canadian soil whom it considers enemies. China summons Japan's ambassador after Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi remarks suggesting a Chinese attack on Taiwan could trigger a military response from Tokyo, escalating a fast-growing diplomatic dispute. The United States approves a $330 million sale on parts and equipment to Taiwan, marking the first military package cleared under President Donald Trump's new term, as tensions with China remain high. Pakistan announces the arrest of 4 suspects belonging to an Afghanistan-based cell, saying the group orchestrated this week's suicide bombing in Islamabad that killed 12 people. And Japan is turning to retired police officers and former soldiers to help tackle a record surge in deadly bear attacks, with the government approving a new plan that calls on trained ex-personnel to join nationwide culling efforts. Let's begin with Ukraine. According to Kyiv's mayor, massive drone and missile strikes hit the capital early Friday, lighting up the skyline and sending emergency crews racing across the city. Officials reported casualties, damaged high-rises, and widespread outages as search and rescue teams worked through fires and debris. Explosions and fires were reported in at least 8 of Kyiv's 10 districts. According to Ukraine's emergency services, more than 40 people were rescued from damaged residential buildings. High-rise apartments, a school, a medical facility, and administrative buildings reportedly sustained damage. Authorities added that sections of the city's heating network were hit, leaving parts of one district temporarily without heat. Officials also said falling debris and fires disrupted electricity and water supplies in several neighborhoods. Now, this is not the first time Ukraine's infrastructure has come under pressure. President Zelensky said 4 people have been killed and described such strikes as part of a calculated campaign targeting critical systems.
Our energy workers have been working all day today, from Zaporizhia and Mykolaiv regions to Ivano-Frankivsk and Vinnytsia regions, following the Russian strikes. Unfortunately, there were hits, and the target was the energy infrastructure. We are doing our utmost to restore it, adding reserves.
Meanwhile, Moscow said its air defense forces had intercepted and destroyed hundreds of incoming Ukrainian drones overnight. The Russian Defense Ministry claimed 216 Ukrainian UAVs were shot down, including dozens over 2 regions in southern Russia. Russian officials also reported capturing 3 more villages alongside the Eastern Front in recent days. The Russia-Ukraine war, now in its 4th year, continues to draw global attention. On Wednesday, Canada announced new sanctions targeting Russian drone and energy production, as well as infrastructure used for cyber attacks. G7 foreign ministers called for an immediate ceasefire and reaffirmed what they described as unwavering support for Ukraine's territorial integrity. Listen in.
First, we reaffirmed our commitment to Ukraine's long-term prosperity, security, and defense. Canada has made it a priority of our G7 presidency to maintain and strengthen our support for Ukraine at every opportunity. Today, alongside Minister Sybiha, I announced new sanctions against Russia to target those who are financing Putin's illegal war.
The European Commission is also considering using frozen Russian assets to provide Kyiv with loans for military and budgetary support over the next 2 years. But despite international pressure and multiple diplomatic efforts, including past overtures from Washington and proposals linked to US President Donald Trump, the war continues. Officials and experts warned that continued strikes on Ukraine's energy infrastructure could worsen civilian hardship this winter, raising the risk of heating outages and further displacement. So, as the war intensifies, Ukraine now faces pressure on multiple fronts. From Russia's escalating attacks to growing scrutiny over corruption in its energy sector, which has placed President Zelensky in the crossfire between the battlefield and frustration from some of his own allies. With winter approaching and diplomacy stalled, officials warn that the weeks ahead may become even more difficult for civilians enduring the strain of a prolonged and punishing conflict. For our next story, we turn to West Asia. Palestinian residents say the Israeli settlers set a mosque in the Palestinian village of Deir Istia in the north of West Bank on fire on Thursday. Visuals show charred walls and shattered windows inside the mosque. Reports also suggest that slogans were sprayed on the mosque's exterior, condemning Avi Blot, who is the commander of the Central Command. In fact, there were also derogatory references made to the Prophet Muhammad. Now, residents say they managed to put out the fire before it could spread to other parts of the mosque. The Israeli military even confirmed that they sent forces to the site to examine the incident. However, nobody was reported injured.
What happened last night is that a group of settlers carried out a heinous attack on Haja Hamida Mosque that is located between Deir Istia village and Kifl Haris, northwest of Salfit. This attack comes within the framework of the declared war against the Palestinian people by settlers with the support of the occupation government. This attack violated the sanctity of places of worship and mosques. There were racist slogans written on the mosque walls from the northern side that insult our Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. This is not the first attack on mosques in Deir Istia. There was an attack several years ago on Imam Ali ben Abi Talib Mosque, 2 times in a row by settlers, and with racist slogans every time.
In another incident, reports also suggest that 2 children were killed yesterday in a town located in the southern West Bank. The children were fatally shot when Israeli forces allegedly opened fire during an army raid in the area. However, the circumstances of the shooting remain disputed. Since October 1, the United Nations Humanitarian Agency, or OCHA, highlights at least 167 settler-related attacks have been linked to the olive harvest in the region. And West Bank, which is home to around 2.7 million Palestinians, remains central to global discussions on a future Palestinian state. The UN Office for the Coordination of the Humanitarian Affairs also notes that Israeli settlers carried out at least 264 attacks on Palestinians in October, which is the highest monthly figure since the UN began formal tracking in 2006. In a press briefing, United Nations spokesperson said the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres is deeply disturbed by the reported attack on a West Bank mosque by Israeli settlers. Listen in.
Regarding the West Bank, I can tell you that we are deeply disturbed by the attacks by Israeli settlers who set fire overnight to a mosque in a West Bank village. Such attacks on places of worship are completely unacceptable. We have and will continue to condemn attacks by Israeli settlers on Palestinians and their property in the West Bank. Israel, as the occupying power, has a responsibility to protect the civilian population and ensure that those responsible for these attacks, including this attack on a mosque and the spray painting of horrendous language on a mosque, be brought to account.
Now, the incident adds to a sharp rise in tensions across the West Bank as Israel is pushing to annex the region and formalize its plans. Last month, Knesset, which is the Israeli parliament, approved 2 bills for the same, a move that even its staunchest ally, the US, strongly opposed. Alongside the Trump administration, the Palestinian Foreign Ministry also condemned the move, saying Israel has no sovereignty over Palestinian land. So, as international agencies continue to warn of escalating violence and its impact on civilians living across the territory, communities brace for the possibility of more incidents amid a steady rise in tensions. Now, let's turn to the United States. America's colleges are seeing a sharp drop in international students. New data shows fewer young people from around the world are applying, and the decline is being linked directly to the White House. A report from the Common App, the country's biggest college application platform, shows international applications have fallen by 9% compared to last year. There was a 14% decline from India, the largest source of international students, to the US. Then, apart from India, there was also an 18% drop in applications from students in Africa and 9% from Asia. This decline comes after months of federal action targeting foreign students. So far this year, the Trump administration has revoked thousands of visas and has even imposed restrictions on new visa application rules. The government has even arrested several students involved in pro-Palestinian activism and launched multiple investigations into universities with large international communities. Now, since the crackdown, two of America's most prestigious universities have already struck deals with the White House. Columbia University has agreed to cut its reliance on foreign students and cooperate with immigration authorities. On the other hand, Cornell University has restored $250 million in federal funding after paying a $60 million settlement. Now, the Common App data is only a snapshot, but the signal is clear. In a year ago, international student applications were climbing at this stage, and now they are dropping across almost every major source country. Because for American universities, that depends on full tuition students from abroad, and this is a warning. If the trend holds through March, it could hit campus budgets, research programs, and even local economies built around these students. The bottom line, Washington's crackdown is reshaping American higher education. And if the numbers continue to fall, it could mark the biggest shift in international student traffic in more than a decade. And today we end in India. Counting is underway in one of the country's most fiercely political heartlands, Bihar, a state where every election becomes a clash of caste, muscle, and the incumbent's record. And today, Prime Minister Modi-led National Democratic Alliance has stormed well beyond the majority mark, as per the Election Commission's latest trends. The BJP and its allies, including Chief Minister Nitish Kumar's JDU, are closing on with their leads on some 200 seats in a 243-member House. That's over 3/4 of the assembly, with a wall of saffron spread across Bihar. The opposition, branded as the Grand Alliance of Lalu Prasad Yadav's RJD, the Congress and smaller partners, is far behind, leading in less than a fourth of total constituencies. And as the vote counts closed on today, the big Bihar verdict, celebrations began early in state capital Patna. People gathered around posters of the Prime Minister and Chief Minister with drums, firecrackers and the music of conch shells. Visuals from Patna showed celebratory posters flanked against the grey November sky. A new hoarding soon followed reading "Bihar means Nitish Kumar." The celebratory poster was erected near the Chief Minister's residence, capturing the mood of a camp that sees the early leads as electoral destiny reconfirmed. In New Delhi, the BJP said the trends reflect Bihar's continued faith in Prime Minister Modi and Chief Minister Nitish Kumar.
नतीजा साफ दिख रहा है कि हम लोग जीत रहे हैं। प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी के ऊपर विश्वास है बिहार का, नीतीश कुमार पर विश्वास है बिहार का, एनडीए पर विश्वास है बिहार का, और 20 साल की सरकार के पक्ष में लोगों ने मतदान किया है।
The BJP-led alliance built its campaign around Nitish Kumar's two-decade political capital. It repeatedly contrasted his long spell of governance with RJD years, calling them an era of mismanagement and fear. And the BJP-JDU alliance went deep into the women's vote with signature welfare populism, anchored in a key women-centric state employment scheme. The numbers may still move, but the picture they paint is clear. The NDA has not just held Bihar, it has reasserted its political grip and done so with a campaign built on Nitish Kumar's record and a relentless courting of women voters. That's all we have for today. We will see you again next week at the same time. Thanks for watching.